LastPass.
If you're a LastPass user, this is what, like their second or third incident this year?
And this goes back like years. I mean, LastPass does not have a great track record.
Well, it did force me to go check my security settings and turn on two-factor authentication, which I hadn't done.
Ooh, yes.
Change my password,
Yes.
which I hadn't done for a while. And so if nothing...
LastPass with an omega lol.
I lied last week, guys. I am so sorry. I said I would do a normal video this week, but it's not a normal video. Because I want to talk about the infamous LastPass hack. Whenever there's a data breach, and this is a commonality that I'm seeing in a lot of media outlets, and like people on Twitter, and Reddit, and like YouTube influencers. A common trend that I'm seeing is if a service is breached, that means you need to stop using it. And that actually disgusts me a lot because everyone's like, oh, well, I heard that, I don't know. I'll pick on them because I like picking on them. Facebook. I heard Facebook had a data breach. That means I need to stop using well, you need to get off of Facebook for other reasons. But getting off of Facebook just because of one single data breach is honestly stupid. Because
I guess
yeah,
the way that most people handle a data breach is kind of like the Titanic or the Hindenburg. When something like that happens, everyone's like, oh, it was so unthinkable that it could possibly happen, that people end up treating it like it's a trend, even if it's not. I mean, sometimes it is a trend, and you should jump ship, but a lot of times it's just a one-off incident where, yes, they were doing everything right, but there was, like, I don't know, social engineering or something that ended up leading to the data breach.
first thing, all right? Let's examine LastPass. I want to examine LastPass as a product, okay? For those who are new to the party, first of all, why'd you click on this video? Second of all, you probably have heard of LastPass before. LastPass is the proprietary cloud-based password manager. If you install their program, you can get an offline database and whatever. So I really cover proprietary products, but I just want to make this clear. Just because something is open source does not make it secure. And I find it depressing that I even need to point this out, because a mentality that I'm seeing from a lot of, and I did see this with a number of bloggers and YouTubers and journalists, is, oh, we need to stop using LastPass because it's proprietary, and proprietary software is not secure, okay? But then they don't back up that statement with any clarifications or anything. So, and I can guarantee that I'm going to get flamed for this because I know that people are going to hate this, and as many open source enthusiasts will say, that we can't see the code for proprietary software, so we can't inspect or audit how that program functions. And because we can't look at it, we can't know it's secure, and we can't trust LastPass. But this criticism falls flat on its head when you just think about, well, that's the negative effect of proprietary software, but what if they're actually benevolent and doing something positive? And then you don't actually know. And that comes down to, well, you can't evaluate whether or not they're doing something bad to you or if they're doing something good to you. And I think this is something that a lot of people are missing, right? Because let's take the criticism of LastPass, right? We can't trust LastPass because LastPass is proprietary. Well, what if I also said, we don't know if LastPass is doing a good job of protecting you either. Therefore, LastPass must be good. It's literally the same thing. There's no proof. You can't. Oh, and the best part of all, my sentence can be defended by, oh, it's proprietary software. You can't inspect it. You don't know if they're doing something good or bad to you, because you literally can't prove it. You can't prove if they're doing something good or bad to you.
I think the feeling that most people have is that though we use a lot of products from a lot of companies aren't your friend and should be treated as hostile towards you until they prove otherwise. And if they have a product that they say that is proprietary software, at least most people feel they should treat that product as being hostile towards them unless they can verify it.
It's funny you just mentioned, oh, well, we should do it if companies prove themselves, right? But that's just the thing. And I'm going to present a number of evidence here that LastPass has actually proven with a positive track record that they have good security in mind, and why all these people who are saying you should jump ship are saying you should do so for the wrong reasons. So I'm gonna go over those reasons now. Wow, you're shilling LastPass. Shut up. I'm doing it for a video. All right, hear me out. So first things first, LastPass back in 2015 had a data breach, and someone was successfully able to make out with, I think, with people's emails, so user emails of people who sign up for LastPass, and authentication hashes. And now this is the important part here: authentication hashes. Authentication hashes are not master passwords. Authentication hashes are what.
They're basically useless until the algorithm for that I mean, if you have a password that you reused, then they're not useless if it's a really bad password. But if it's a reasonably good password, it basically is useless until we crack the algorithm.
No, that's password hashes. This is even worse for the attackers. It's authentication hashes. Authentication hashes require that they already need to know your master password. So basically, as soon as LastPass probably learned about this breach, probably killed it, because it's just that easy. You just kill it, make everyone relog again, right? Easy, and then it's worthless. Key thing to note here: LastPass has said they don't store your passwords, and they say here, no one's passwords were actually taken, and this is an important one. You're like, well, LastPass is proprietary. Why should we trust them? Well, dear viewer, I'll give you a good reason why you should trust that claim from LastPass. It's because an article from Forbes from 3 years ago from good old Thomas Brewster described how, after getting a FOIA request of a thing, he showed a document from the Drug Enforcement Administration of the United States, and how they actually had a target who was using LastPass, and they actually went to LastPass and asked them, hey, LastPass, can you give us their passwords? And LastPass said, we would like to give you our passwords, but we can't. We won't be able to decrypt them.
All of the information that we have,
which is his IP address, and the last time he accessed LastPass. Which to the FBI, they probably, or the DEA, they probably know this information already, and it's completely worthless. So, but the point is, this thing is proof that they don't have access to your passwords. If they won't hand it over to the government of the country they are headquartered in, they can't give it to anyone. Never mind, like, someone on the inside. In fact, something tells me they probably have something on the inside. So, in the sense of the last incident here, the notice of the recent security breach, the reason why I bring this up is because
LastPass incident.
Haha, very funny. One of LastPass's developers got their password stolen. Look, if they can't even hand it over to the government, you think they're gonna hand it over to their employees, who are probably even less scrupulous than the government? Like, let's be honest. And there's been no obviously there's been no events of, like, negative, like, employee insider whatever.
I think that LastPass falls into a similar category as a VPN in this sense. In the sense that if they do collect this kind of information, and they do hand it over, or like if it is being stored in such a way that it could be compromised, that is not in their best interest, because if it does get leaked, their company's finished. And so it's in their best interest to be as protective of your information as they possibly can, because if they're not, then they're probably not going to succeed as a company for very long. And
exactly.
So they do have a vested interest in doing what they say they do. Unlike, I don't know,
Facebook.
Windows or Facebook.
I'm happy to also report that they have received audits from some really, really, really famous people. By that, I mean Google researcher on Twitter, Tavis Ormandy. He is a part of Google Project Zero. And for some reason, he tweeted back in July 2016 that in the shower, he wanted to he wanted to find a flaw in LastPass. And in the shower, he figured out, oh, I'll just trick the user into visiting a malicious website to get them to autofill their real password so I can steal it. And, to be fair, tricking the LastPass extension into autofilling on a website that isn't the website that, you set up autofill for is actually pretty good.
Isn't that kind of difficult? Because don't they base it on the SSL certificate?
It was given a CV rating of high, so, pretty serious. And he did report now, but here's the other thing too. When he filled out this report, he actually filled this report out privately. So this was actually never shown to anyone in the public. And if he did it private report, and since he reported it privately, we at least have, the knowledge that, oh, this wasn't leaked to random people in the wild. This wasn't being abused by state actors or children in their mom's basement. We know that it was probably just him who found this. This is from Matthias Carlson. I don't actually know anything about him. I'm sure he's a nice guy. He also created a flaw where you can trick the URL parsing of the LastPass extension into visiting websites and giving it passwords to websites that you're not actually on. Once again, another autofill bug. But this is not as good as Tavis's. The difference between his and Tavis's is his would probably be blocked if you enable 2FA. Because if you enable 2FA, this just you type in the code number or whatever, it just doesn't work. But it's proof that there's actual research that's gone into this. And here's another thing with both Carlson and Ormandy, when they both created their reports to LastPass, they submitted their reports, and LastPass responded with less than a week. And that is actually very commendable. If you respond
That's
to
pretty good turnaround time.
It's very good turnaround time. Compare this to Microsoft or Apple or Genshin Impact for having issues in your thing for months and months and not doing anything about it. And especially in those particular cases of Apple, Microsoft, Genshin Impact, and whatever their parent company is called. They all left it up for months, and it was being exploited in the wild by people. So,
that's what you get for playing Genshin.
Yeah, that's what you
get.
How
dare you?
That's what you sick degenerates get for playing Genshin Impact. This track record, in my mind, is actually a really great reason why, you should still use a password manager, and why, heck, using something like LastPass is still better than using, I don't know, saving your passwords in Chrome or Firefox, which is stupid. I don't know, if you do that, you need to stop. That's just not okay. I've hit about the 20-minute mark for ad revenue. I've scared away all the open source snobs, and I want to close out by saying I think LastPass has some of the best security practices in the industry, especially when you compare them to a lot of other companies. But now it's time for one of the most important parts of the video: how LastPass is one of the worst password managers ever created. This is the moment you all have been waiting for. Number one, when you look into some of the claims from research, namely Tavis Ormandy said the hilarious thing of, there's a flaw in LastPass, you shouldn't use LastPass, and then he didn't elaborate why. And
there's a flaw. That's all I'm gonna tell you.
And what's even more hilarious is he did it before this tweet, and I'll freely admit to Tavis Ormandy is kind of a bit of a snob when it comes to response timelines or whatever. But because he's really religious about it, but whatever. You can see it in the comments too. People are shilling all sorts of password managers on him, password safe, KeePass, I don't know, 1Password. Everyone's just throwing all of their password recommendations on him. Never respond. He just ghosted all of them. We don't actually know what he meant by I would never trust LastPass. You shouldn't trust LastPass or something like that. I don't actually know what that means. I don't know if you said it as a joke. I can't actually tell because this is the internet and we can't actually tell anything from text messages. All right, but here's another thing. This is probably a little minor, Matt. You're wasting your time on Twitter like a journalist. Fine, I get it, right? But here's something that I argue is more concerning. Okay, if you pay attention to the author here, the author of the 2015 breach is Joe Segrist, and then if you go over here to the other security notice, you'll see it's Kareem Toba. Right? You're like, well, what's the importance of these names? Well, what if I told you Joe Segrist was the CEO of LastPass? And if you actually click on this link here, you'll actually see every story from Joe Segrist. But you'll notice on the LastPass blog that the stories stop around 2017. And if anyone remembers anything in history, you'll notice that LastPass was bought out by LogMeIn, I don't even know what they actually do except for that remote software or whatever that telephone scammers use on old women.
I remember that.
And but then he disappears from LastPass 2 years later, and then it was revealed that he left the company. So it's funny, and he took a lot of people with him too. So like, make of that what you will. I don't actually know what this means. I don't know how LogMeIn is actually treating LastPass behind the scenes. Actually, I do know what LogMeIn is doing with LastPass behind the scenes. Because what they have done with LastPass is disgusting, okay? So first, let's talk about...
I guess you could say it was his last pass at trying to fix them.
Sure. Wow, you're all full of dad jokes today. I love it. So here's the biggest problem with LastPass, and this is the big reason why I would say stay away from LastPass. And this can only, but before I cover any of this, what I can only imagine the reason why they did this has to be a cash grab. I cannot see a single other reason why, because let me explain why. You can see, oh, well, there's a free tier. The free tier, you get unlimited passwords, you get a free trial, you can autofill, basically do all the normal stuff you would expect a manager to do. But then you'll notice this thing, second item right here, access on one type of device, computer or mobile, which essentially destroys the entire purpose of LastPass, because most people only have one computer or a phone.
Okay, so you could use a multitude of computers or a multitude of phones, but you couldn't use a computer and a phone?
Yes. Which essentially destroys the purpose of LastPass, and that's disgusting. What if I told you they added this little thing into their plans shortly after Segrist left the company?
But it's actually a little bit worse than that, because they also give you a 30-day free trial for their premium subscription when you sign up for their free subscription.
So you won't even know.
You get used to using your phone and your computer together, and then 30 days later, all of a sudden it stops working. And what do you do when you're frustrated trying to put your password in somewhere? You decide to give them your credit card information. That's what they're hoping for.
I love it.
And that's really cash grabby. Hitting people when they are at their most vulnerable is a really scummy move.
This is why LastPass is literally this one reason. Never mind that these plans are a ripoff. Never mind that. This reason alone right here is literally the worst reason. The reason to not use LastPass. And most people, once they hit that 30-day trial, will experience this firsthand, and it's the worst kind of model possible. And it's disgusting.
Companies and people shouldn't be judged particularly harshly on what they do, but on how they respond to things that happen to them. So in other words, LastPass, when they've gotten found out for having some kind of a vulnerability of some variety, posts on their own website a paper that explains what the vulnerability is and fully discloses it, and goes to the trouble of fixing it in a short period of time. That is a good thing. But also at the same time, when their CEO left the company, and then they all of a sudden decide to change their policy to something that's really scummy, that is something that they should be judged on, because once something changed, how did the company respond to that? Was it a positive response or a negative response? And at least in this instance, with the payment plan, it's negative. But humans and companies are pluralities, and should be judged as such.
Give them the ability to vote, right? All right, I've rallied against every online pundit which covered this stupid data breach, and every stupid news outlet which just said, "Oh, they got breached. Here's some things you can use." And it's like, Yeah, but that's not fully grasping the situation. It's really petty. It's probably just so they can get useless clicks on stupid videos and articles just to get this across. And I'm so done. And now, normally, this time of the video is when I would give you a nice long walkthrough on how to use an alternative, but right now I just don't have the energy. So, I will leave
We've
you
also given
an alternative in the past, and that's KeyPass, okay? You can go use KeyPass, but I don't think KeyPass is
and you
the
know
right...
we're not shilling because you don't have to pay for it.
But I do want to point out that KeyPass isn't people who have been recommending KeyPass, I've been seeing this a lot, have been recommending KeyPass in light of the LastPass scenario. I don't think that's a good idea, especially when people who want the convenience of storing their passwords in the cloud already. Maybe you should try recommending a cloud service, and at least as a pitch, I will recommend the cloud service, Bitwarden. You go to bitwarden.com, not sponsored. I know they sponsor YouTubers or whatever, okay?
Do they actually?
Yes, they do. Now, I also want to point out, too, that they are not all... as a password manager, you get
Are they
them for
open
free.
source, Matt?
Yes.
They're not good if they're not open source.
Wow, Timmy, what a great question. Yes, of course they are open source. And also, they have passed third-party audit, so you at least know what they're doing. So this is why, all right, if you're going to recommend people something, recommend them an equivalent thing which meets their needs. Don't just tell people, oh, use KeyPass, right? Because it's more complicated than that. Please recommend people good solutions. Don't recommend people, like, just use a thing just because you like it, okay? Just because you're trying to shill them something for a video because you're trying to capitalize on the anger and panic of a data breach.
Said the JPEG that made a video about the thing that he liked rather than
I'm
the thing that he
capitalizing on
recommends.
the other people capitalizing on it, and why I hate it so much. This is why you come see the channel. Like, I've seen LastPass go through a lot of crap in the past. Heck, even going through like the cripey this like, I don't know, like this crappy like pricing policy thing here. People still use LastPass, especially like people who were already paid users. People are still using LastPass, but for the first time, I'm beginning to see the cracks are starting to show, and a lot of that faith that people are having. And like now, if people were to choose, let's be honest, they don't want to be restricted to one mobile device. They're just going to go use Bitwarden, because at the back again to proprietary versus open source, if people were going to choose at the end of the day when they understand everything fully, they would have just chose the open source option. And in defense of LastPass was back in the day, I remember when they first got started, they were the new kid on the block. No one had ever done what they had done before, and I think this is something people take for granted. Back in the olden days, when like LastPass was the only online password manager, and then but eventually, as time went on, like newer solutions came out. You got things like Dashlane and 1Password, and I don't know, do people even use what is it, Roboform? Roboform or Okta, God forbid.
The one that NordVPN has.
Oh, that's
also have a
literally
password
even
manager
worse
now?
than LastPass, probably.
I don't know. Do the other VPNs also have password managers?
No. No, that obviously must mean NordVPN is better, right? We're not sponsored. NordVPN. Did you hear that, NordVPN? Can you give... I would shill you if you gave me money. Actually, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably shame you if one of your PR reps actually emailed me. But wait, I don't have a public email, so you're just dead. All right. So I'm just going to leave it at LastPass got breached. They were already terrible before, and also good in a lot of other ways, and groundbreaking in many others. But times have changed. That ship has sailed. Go use Bitwarden. So leave a like on this video, and remember, you can only do it from a computer device or a mobile device.
Or a mobile device. You actually literally can't do
simultaneously
it from
press
both.
the like button on both devices.
Yeah, it'll cancel it out. You literally don't have the option.
All right.
It's impossible.
Thank you for watching. Now give me engagement and Patreon money. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.